The other day, my dad made a video saying he can't find shoes that fit because he has flat feet. He never heard of Wayman Bespoke? And he thinks he's Mr. Menswear, Mr. YouTuber, Mr. 10,000 subscribers? And true.
You should come rolling my
Ryder is something else, isn't he? You guys been asking for Ryder. Well, that was Ryder for you, man. One thing about that boy, he's gonna tell you what's on his mind. So he definitely told me, you know. Yo, what up? My name is Vladimir Riché from chaseandrider.com. A few videos ago, I did an unboxing of a pair of shoes from Insoles. In that video, I mentioned that those are probably my best looking shoes so far, but I did have some heat coming around the corner. I wasn't lying, man. And this video, this is exactly what we're going to talk about today. But more importantly, man, 2 or 3 videos ago, I did a video called How a Shoe Should Fit. And in that video, I mentioned how I usually have a lot of trouble with some shoes due to my flat feet. Luckily for me, most of my shoes fit fine. Like, I never knew that I had an issue with my feet until very recently. So maybe it was just beginner's luck. Well, because I didn't know, I never had an issue. And then since I've actually realized that, I've been having more issues. Like, for example, the shoe that I unboxed last week from Festus. As you guys know, those shoes didn't fit because they also gape on the side. Let me rewind a little bit. A couple months ago, I think it was in May, I discovered a new brand on Instagram, and their whole thing was they do semi-bespoke shoes. By semi-bespoke, what they really mean is they don't actually do a fitting in person. Everything is done remotely. Anyway, long story short, I reached out to them via Instagram, and the owner of Wayman Bespoke, his name is Simon. He's from Germany. He's a fellow shoe enthusiast, obviously, like myself. We pretty much hit it off right away. When I reached out to him, he was already very familiar with me because of the work that I do to YouTube, and he was a fan of the channel and thought there was an opportunity there for us to work together. So it was like music to my ears, because around that time, the end of May, early June, that's when I started to get suspicious about my own feet. When my pair of Carlos Santos shoes, the second pair that I've ever gotten from Carlos Santos, didn't quite work for me, I started to realize that the issue maybe is not with Vash, but it's actually with my own feet. So after speaking to Simon for a couple days, he broke down the whole process for me. The most important part was getting your feet measured. And the way it works is you go on their website, there's a video that walks you through the process, but just to keep it short, there's a form that you have to print out, and I had my wife involved and she helped me measure my feet. You can't measure your own feet, so I know some people are probably thinking you can probably sit down and then bend over to trace your own feet. That will not work, because as soon as you start to bend over, that changes the shape of your feet. So you really don't want to do that. Thankfully, I had my wife and she definitely hooked me up. So now I know some of you are probably thinking that getting your feet measured is pretty hard. It's actually not that complicated. The video that Simon has on the website really does a good job of breaking down the process. My wife was kind of worried after doing it because she thought that she didn't do it right, because my feet look so wide on the paper. But that's because when you're tracing out the feet, you have to hold the pencil perpendicular to the ground. Typically when you write, naturally, you bend the pencil. But when you're tracing the feet, you have to hold the pencil straight. So with that being said, that made it look like my feet were a lot wider than what they actually are. So she was kind of worried about it. I was kind of worried about it myself. I reached out to Simon. When I sent it to him, he told me that they actually look regular. I do have wide feet, but not out of the ordinary to where it would be too wide for it to be right. You know what I mean? Now, getting my feet measured was the easy part for me because I'm very indecisive. It took me like a week to come up with exactly what I wanted. At first, I thought I wanted a certain style. Spoke to Simon about it. He gave me his input, spoke to my wife about it, spoke to my friends. I just couldn't really come with something that I was 100% sold on, you know what I mean? So at first I was going to go with a plain cap-toe Balmoral with a perforated swan neck design. But Simon was telling me one thing about the perforated swan neck, it looks better if the shoe has some brogan on it, which is something that I wasn't really thinking about. So I took his input into consideration. So I'm like, we'll do a punch cap-toe Oxford in a Balmoral with a perforated swan neck. So I had the design that I wanted. Now I had to come up with the color, which was another thing that took me like 3 or 4 days to come up with. At first I thought I wanted suede, and then I thought I wanted some kind of dark brown. So I finally settled on a burgundy color. So now I had my style and I also had the color. Now, if you guys know me, man, I'm a big champion of burgundy shoes. I think that burgundy shoes are very versatile, but you don't want the shoes to be red. You really want them to be burgundy. You still want them to be a little bit dark. They do have different leathers that you can pick, But let's say that you want a specific color that they don't carry, they can definitely do it in a crust leather and then they can paint that color for you. So that's how we ended up with the color that I have now. Simon already had the shoes made in that color, so it was an easy decision for me because I could already see what the color looked like. If you're not familiar with the bespoke process, usually it takes like 2 to 3 trips to the shoemaker to have the final result. So the first one is to get your feet measured. The second one is to go try on the shoes, and then they're going to make some adjustments to the shoes from the trial. Sometimes when you correct something, it can create another issue. So that's why some even include a second fitting, and then eventually you get the final pair. A lot of time, this type of process can take like a year or 2. Besides all these steps that you have to do with bespoke shoes, one thing I've always heard from almost every guy that's ever gotten bespoke shoes is you can't expect perfection on your first pair. Now, even though you're getting your feet measured in person, even though you're doing a trial fitting in person, you can't really expect to have a perfect pair of shoes. The thing about bespoke shoes is it's in the process. So you get your first pair and then eventually you commission a second pair, and that's when you can start to expect for the shoes to be perfect. You know what I mean? Even then, you might not get a perfect shoe until your third pair. Now, mind you, you're paying $3,000-$4,000 for a shoe and it's still not going to be perfect. And that's because that's how tricky and complex feet are, man. You can't really expect perfection from shoes, man. Not from your first bespoke pair, sometimes not even from your second. So when we're talking about semi-bespoke, where you're not even meeting in person, everything is done remotely. So you'd be crazy to think that the shoes are going to be perfect. This is not the aim anyway. The aim is not to give you perfect shoes. The aim is to give you better shoes than you can find off the rack, if your feet requires that. So as you guys know, my feet are not normal at all. So I'd be a good candidate for a pair of bespoke shoes, you know what I mean? But once again, I wasn't really thinking about bespoke shoes because the price is definitely out of my budget. So that's what got me very interested into Wayman Bespoke. From seeing what they offer, I really think that it's a great deal, man. Are the shoes cheap? Absolutely not. But they shouldn't be cheap anyway. You're getting your own last made to your own specifications, you know what I mean? And you can't really compare Wayman Bespoke to shoes like Carmina or TLB Mallorca or even Yilsal, which I really champion those brands. Of course, it's going to cost money, but you have other companies that offer a similar product but not quite the same. Like for example, St. Crispin's, they make adjustments to their existing last based off your measurements, and those shoes retail for about $1,500 to $1,700. You know what I mean? What Wayman Bespoke does, they actually create a last from scratch based off your measurement. So once again, it's not true bespoke because you're not getting your feet measured in person. So that's why it's called semi-bespoke, because you're actually sending in your measurements and then you're getting the shoes made. So one thing that changed from June until now, a trial shoe was an option that they had, but it wasn't required. But now if you're getting a pair of shoes made, a trial shoe is mandatory for the first order. Now, of course, it's more expensive to get a trial shoe made, but I think that it's a great idea that Simon made it mandatory. That way, there's a higher level of success that you can get from your first shoes that wasn't present before, since the first shoe that you were getting was actually the trial shoe. I don't see any downside to getting a trial shoe, besides the fact that it costs more money. But when you're spending that kind of money, you do want the shoes to be done right. And a trial shoe only increases the fact that the shoes are going to fit you well. So now without further ado, man, let's take a look at the shoes. I know you guys are dying to see the shoes. I've been talking about the shoes for a while now, and let's get to it, man. So first and foremost, the shoes come in a cardboard colored box that says Wayman Bespoke on it, with the Wayman Bespoke logo. And it's one of those boxes that gets you excited to open it up to see what's inside. Comes with a bow, something I've never had on a shoe box before. And if you look over here, that's where you can see some of the details for the shoes. The first thing that you'll notice is the graphic of the shoe. So in this case, this is the actual shoe that I'm getting, which is the Balmoral Capital Oxford design. Over here, it says my name, which is Vladimir Riché. The model, Quarterbrook Balmoral, like I was saying before. The date is 6/20, meaning June 2020, which is when I ordered the shoes. And then the last is a custom chiseled square. Once again, as we get deeper into the video, start looking at the shoes, we'll talk more about the details and all the different lasts that Wayman Bespoke has. Now, let's take a look at the shoes, man. You guys been waiting long enough. The shoes come with a premium shoe horn with the Wayman Bespoke etched on the shoe horn, so that's pretty cool. Looks like one of those Abbey horn shoe horn, but I'm not exactly sure who makes this one. And also it comes with a thank you card. Simon's handwriting is kind of crazy though. Good looking, Simon. Alright, so the shoes come in a premium shoe bag. It's like a cream white color shoe bag that says Wayman Bespoke on it again, with the Wayman Bespoke logo. And these are the shoes right here, man. Now, when I told you I had some heat coming around the corner, do you believe me now? I never lie to you guys, man, you know? Oh my God, these shoes are crazy. Now, let's get something out of the way real quick. These are the best shoes that I own, man. I've never held a pair of shoes in my hands that are mine, that are this good. So, as I was saying before, this is a Balmoral. And what makes it a Balmoral is the fact that this line sweeps all the way to the back of the heel. So it's very similar to my other Balmoral that I got from Insoles that I unboxed about a month ago. So the only difference is the other one, the Balmoral was actually a brogue line, versus this one, the Balmoral line is actually a plain line. The other feature that this shoe also shares with the Insoles shoe is the perforated swan neck, as you can see on here. Now onto the color. As I was telling you, I'm very, very indecisive. It took me probably 10 days to come up with the style and the color. So I chose a burgundy color. This is a hand painted color. So these shoes originally were white and then they painted a color that I requested to the shoes. So I wanted like a burgundy, but not too red, which is exactly what these are. Now I'm going to tell you about all the different options that you can choose for your shoes, and then I'll tell you which option I chose for mine so that you can have a better idea on how the options work. The first thing that you have to do after sending in your measurements is to choose the style of shoe or boots that you want. And there are 18 house styles to pick from the Wayman Bespoke website. But the great thing about it is if you don't find one that you like out of the 18 styles that they already have, you can actually come up with your own bespoke pattern. Just have to check with Simon first, so that way you guys can work out the details together. So in my case, they do have a punch cap toe Oxford, but they didn't have a punch cap toe Balmoral with a swan neck design. So that part makes this a bespoke pattern because they didn't have this in the lineup. So I'm saying that to say this: if you don't see something that you like in the 18 house styles, you can definitely work with Simon to come up with something that's just for you. Now once you choose the pattern, the next thing is to choose the construction. Now all the Wayman Bespoke shoes are hand welted, but you can also choose for it to have a Norwegian welt. A Norwegian welt is a way that the uppers are attached to the sole, and they're usually done on more casual shoes because on a Norwegian welt, you can actually see the stitching on the uppers. And as far as the Norwegian is concerned, you can do a 180 or you can do a complete 360. If it's 180, they're only going to do the Norwegian on the front end, and 360 obviously goes around the whole shoe. So on my shoes, I just picked the hand welted because obviously it's an Oxford, so I wasn't going to play around with anything that's going to make it less dressy. So once you select the construction, the next thing to select is the toe shape. Wayman Bespoke has 3 different toe shapes to pick from. That's another great thing, man, because typically a lot of shoe brands, they have so many different lads that make it kind of confusing. The first toe shape is the classic round. Your classic round shoe is probably the most common toe shape there is. Very classic, as the name suggests. The second one is a modern round. The modern round is more of an almond shape. And then the third option is the chisel square. So in my case, as you can see, I chose the chisel square. So once you have the construction and you have the toe shape, the next thing to do is to select the kind of leather that you want. There are 5 different types of leathers to choose from. The first one is box calf. Box calf is your regular leather. So if they have the color that you want in a regular leather, then you can just go with that. The second option is to get a patina. So like for me, I wanted a burgundy, a darker burgundy. So they didn't really have this type of burgundy in their box calf lineup. So this is the crust leather, which is a white leather that was hand painted into this burgundy that you see here now. So that's the second leather option. The third leather option is to get a grain. So for example, like in the split toe derby that I unboxed last week, that was a hash grain leather, so you can get something like that as well. The fourth option is to get a suede. So they have plenty different suedes to choose from. And then the fifth leather that you can get is a museum calf leather. As you guys know, museum calf is usually a combination of 2 colors, some darker spots, some lighter spots. Like for example, my pair from Yale, that's also made in museum calf. Pretty much everything that you're looking for more than likely is going to be covered under those 5 categories. The next option is to select the kind of sole that you want. So for me, I went with a single leather sole. As you can see here, this is just a single sole. Another option is to have a double sole where it tapers into a single. So this part is thicker, and then as you go towards the waist, it goes into a single. And the third option is to get a day-night city sole. A day-night, as you know, is a rubber sole. So if you live in a climate that's a little wet and you want more traction, day-night works really good for that. Or if you're just getting some casual shoes that you're going to be wearing in the winter, day-night is another good option for that as well. So once you have the sole selected, the next option is to go with the waist. So the first option that you have is a fiddle back waist. So in my case, I didn't want a fiddle back waist, not because I don't like a fiddle back waist, but because I wanted to have my initials in the sole. So if you could picture, if this part was raised, it would be very hard to have a single initial on the sole. You would be able to have 2 letters, like one on each side of the fiddle, but I really wanted to have one initial under each shoe. So because of that, I went with a beveled waist where it's still not actually flat. It does have a little bit of curve to it, but the curve is not too pronounced. So they can still have one initial on a beveled waist. And then the third option is just to have a round waist. And once you figure out what waist you want, now it's time to figure out the color. So you can have a different color in the front than you do in the back. In my case, I selected the same color, which is like a brown. And as I was saying, I have a single initial on each shoe. And then another option is to select if whether or not you want to have metal toe plates. So these are Triumph metal toe plates. As I always tell you guys, whenever I wear my shoes, the first part that usually goes is the front. So I always like to have metal toe plates on my shoes if that's an option. Another option also is the initials that you see on here. Like I was saying before, not all the shoes come with initials, but as you can see, that's an option that you can definitely have. And you can talk to Simon about it on exactly how you want your initials to be done. In my case, I chose to have one initial under each shoe, but you can easily have both of your initials under both shoes if you like. Another thing that's possible also, you can select a Vibram Insert where you can still have a leather sole, but this part here could be Vibram, which is a rubber sole to give you a little bit more grip, but still looks pretty sexy as opposed to what day-night looks like, you know what I mean? And also, besides the brass peg initials, another option is to select the type of heel that you want. So the options is to have what's called a Cuban heel, or they also call it a pitch heel, which is what this is, where the heel kind of comes in. Or another option is to have a square heel, where the heel is just regular. It's crazy, man. When I started to realize how bad my feet were, being that I have flat feet and a high instep, and also they're kind of wide, and my heel are kind of wide as well, I thought that was kind of special. You know, I'm like, man, I don't think many people have feet like these. And then when I made the video on how a shoe should fit, there were so many comments with so many guys telling me they have the same exact issue as mine, where they have flat feet with a high instep and their shoes also gape on the side. So some of them I asked in the comments, have they ever considered going bespoke? And of course, a lot of them answered they have considered it, but because of the price, that's something that's out of their reach. And I'm right there with you, man, because I never thought I'd be getting bespoke shoes either. I remember watching videos of other YouTubers getting bespoke shoes, and I'm like, man, those shoes look really nice, but I don't think I'll ever need bespoke shoes. First of all, so much money to spend on shoes like that, and secondly, all the rack shoes fit me just right. Come to find out, I do get lucky with some of the rack shoes, but a lot of them don't fit me. So having a last that's made to my specific foot shape is something that I really couldn't pass up. Now I'm gonna keep it 100% real. I didn't pay for these shoes. Simon did send me these shoes for free so that I can review them for you on this channel. But I do think that these shoes are priced very, very well, man. Like, once again, you can't compare these shoes to the ready-to-wear shoes that you're used to. You have to compare these shoes with other bespoke shoes. Now, of course, they're not fully bespoke, they're semi-bespoke. And as I was saying before, most bespoke shoes start around $3,000 to the $3,500 range. The good news is these don't come anywhere near regular bespoke price, because once again, they're not truly bespoke. So you won't be paying $3,000, you won't be paying $2,000, you won't even be paying $1,500, man. So I'm going to tell you the prices in euro. I can convert the price to US dollars for you, but it's really a moving target, man. Like, the dollar changed so much from when I first started talking to Simon in early June. So I'm just going to quote you the prices in euro, because at least we know that the prices won't change in euro. But every now and then I'll throw some dollars in there too, just to give you a better idea. But yeah, let's talk about pricing, man. Now, first thing first, talking about shoes and loafers, they start at 680 euros. 680 euros right now is around $810. So that's the starting price for the shoes and loafers. But if you want boots, those start at 740 euros, which is $880 currently. The trial shoes are 115 euros, which is right now around $140. Other options that you get to select, like I was saying before, you can pick from the 18 house styles that Wayman Bespoke currently has between the Oxfords, loafers, and boots. But if you want to create your own pattern from scratch, there's going to be some additional cost that comes with that. So that's 820 euros, which is around $975. But if you want to create your own boot pattern, that's 880 euros, which right now is $1,045. Once again, take all the US dollars prices that I'm quoting you with a grain of salt, because those prices are very fluid. So by the time that you inquire, the relationship of the dollar to the euro might not be the same that it is right now. I said I wasn't even gonna quote you prices in US dollars, but I can't help it, man. You know, I'm here for you. I'm for the people, man, you know? But yeah, man, that's pretty much all you need to know. Now, everything that I was referring to before as far as the different options are going to cost you extra. There's no difference really between getting them to Wayman Bespoke, or if you are just using a regular ready-to-wear maker where you're getting some shoes custom made, or if you're getting some bespoke shoes, man. Whenever you're talking about options are going to cost extra. For example, these brass peg initials, those are 12 euros per letter. Something like the metal toe tips, those are 55 euros. So all these different options do cost, but if you go on the Wayman Bespoke website, you'll be able to see all the different options and price out your shoes from there. Now that you've seen how the shoes look like, you're probably wondering the most important question is, how do the shoes fit? As I was saying before, when it comes to bespoke shoes, you definitely shouldn't be expecting perfection. Definitely not on the first pair. Especially with me, I didn't do a trial shoe. So these are actually my trial shoes, if you will. As you already know, the biggest issue that I have is with the top line not sticking to my ankles. And this is what's called the top line of the shoes right here. And I'm happy to report that the top line fit me perfectly. Now, one thing that's not so perfect is they made the instep too high. When I first tried on the shoes, the instep was so high that they're closed all the way. And as I was telling you before in the video on how a shoe should fit, by the way, if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it somewhere up here, also included in the description. When it comes to the instep, you definitely don't want it to be closed all the way, especially when the shoes are brand new, because what that means is eventually the facing are going to overlap, and that's not going to hold your feet in place. So you definitely want for the shoe to have a slight V at the top. But when I tried the shoes on, there was no gap in the facing, so they definitely made a mistake there. But when I reached out to Simon. He told me that was a technical issue that they had and that had already been rectified at the factory level. But unfortunately, my shoes were already made. So at that point, I was thinking, okay, so what's the next step? I was thinking about probably getting some tongue pads to try to rectify that issue. But before I bought the tongue pads, I had this insole that I had bought from Amazon. They're made for people with flat feet. And I tried them in all the shoes that I had that were gaping at the side, and they didn't help with those issues at all. Something told me to just try these to see if those would make a difference. And I must tell you, man, as soon as I tried these on, the shoes fit me perfectly. So when I told Simon that, he was very excited because he was kind of disappointed, just like I was, that the instep was too high. So they've already made the changes to my last so that the last can fit me the same way that these shoes fit me now with the help of the little gel insoles. I'm going to include these in the description just in case if any of you have some shoes where the instep is too high. Maybe you don't need tongue pads, maybe these will work just fine, but I'll also include some tongue pad in the description as well. And yeah, man, I really love these shoes. This is by far the best shoes in my collection. And burgundy is one of my favorite colors. And eventually I'll be making a video on how I plan on wearing these shoes, man, because there are certain suit colors that go better with burgundy than others, even though I feel like burgundy go with most of them. So yeah, man, let me know in the comments, what do you think about Wayman Bespoke, man? Are you going to be giving them a try? Like I was saying, a lot of you in the comments mentioned how you also have trouble finding shoes that fit you well and have a similar issues like me as far as the shoes gaping on the side. But having a last made to your exact foot measurements without paying $3,000, you're really paying like a third of the price. I feel like this is a great deal, man. They're not really true bespoke because once again, you're not getting your feet measured in person. You're not trying on the shoes in person. Everything is done remotely. But if this is any indication, and besides that little mistake that has already been rectified, by the way, these shoes really, really fit me well, man. I think that Simon did a really good job, and I'm already thinking about what my next commission is going to be. Now, as far as the finishes of these shoes, man, the finishes are downright flawless on these shoes. I really like the fudging, which is what you see here. Now I didn't count them, but I can see that there are so many stitches per inch. The punch cap toe is done very, very well. And this is just a beautiful, beautiful shoe, man. Like the shape of the shoe, it came out better than I was anticipating, put it that way. Even though I had a lot of high hopes, I really wasn't expecting for the shoes to look as beautiful as they are. And yeah, man, these shoes are excellent, man. I'm so happy with my choice. I think that this style is very, very nice. As many shoes that I have in my collection, and a lot of shoes that I've been adding lately, it's so funny that I didn't own not one Balmoral, but within the past month or so, I've received 2 of them. But yeah, man, these shoes are incredible, man. I think that Wayman Bespoke did a really, really good job, man. I'm dying to see what you guys think in the comments. I don't even know what else to say about these shoes, man. Now, if you're wondering how long these shoes take to make, these shoes take around 12 weeks, which is a pretty quick turnaround when you're talking about having a last made exactly for your feet. I ordered my shoes the first week of June or the second week of June, and then I received these shoes at the end of August. Mine came a little bit early, but yeah, about 12 weeks though is about average, especially now with the fact that it requires for you to get a trial shoe first. I know that a lot of time you order your shoes and you want them now, but 3 months for semi-bespoke is well worth the wait. Now, who are these shoes for? There are some guys, when I was talking about shoes like Hephaestus and Yilsal, they felt like I was talking about shoes that were too expensive because they're used to me talking about shoes that are a little bit less expensive than that. So I definitely do get that. So these shoes are definitely not for everybody, but these shoes are for guys that already are spending $1,000 on shoes, but they really want to have their own last made. There's guys spending like $1,500 on Edward Green shoes. Edward Green shoes are beautiful, beautiful shoes. And those shoes are Goodyear welted and they're not made to your exact specifications versus these shoes. The finish on these shoes are gorgeous. They're made to your exact foot measurements and they cost less than Edward Green, man. So no, these shoes are not for everyone, but yes, I think that there's a big market out there for these shoes. Like I said, these shoes are for guys that are used to spending that kind of money on shoes already, or guys that haven't spent that kind of money on shoes. I think the most I've ever spent on a pair of shoes is $700, for example. Like some of the issues that I was having, if I can get those issues resolved, that's really kind of priceless to me. But $1,000, man, on a pair of semi-bespoke shoes, to where I don't never have to worry about is the top line going to hug my ankles. Yeah, that's a pretty good investment if you ask me. Now, I know that you probably have more questions after watching this video, so feel free to ask questions in the comments. I'll be able to answer some questions since I went through the process, and Simon will also be manning the comment section as well to answer the questions that you have. So that was my video on the best shoes that you can get under $1,000. Hit the thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe, or everybody gonna think that you're a hater. And I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.
Let's go. The other day, my dad made a video saying he can't find shoes that fit because he has...
See, you have the swag and then you stop. Keep going with the swag.
What's the swag again?